As the saga of late-night television marched along, there were skirmishes.
On my series, there were nights I would have shot myself.
Yeah. There were battles.
Just how pissed off are you?
And there were wars.
There must be a better way of making a living than this.
But on the front lines of late night, there were also alliances forged. And for nearly 3 decades, 3 hosts would hold down the fort in 2 time slots. In 1972, future late-night host David Letterman was presenting the weather for station WLWI in Indiana.
And I think you'll see that once again we've fallen to the prey of political dirty dealings. And right now you can see what I'm talking about. The higher-ups have removed the border between Indiana and Ohio, making it one giant state. Personally, I'm against it.
Tom Snyder was reading the news at KNBC in Los Angeles.
This is NBC News Update. Here is Tom Snyder.
Good evening. Gary Gilmore is to die by firing squad Monday, 2 days after he's 36. That's what he wants, but somebody might appeal.
Johnny Carson moved The Tonight Show from New York to Burbank and celebrated his 10th year of hosting.
You've been watching Johnny Carson swing that golf club for the past 10 years, and as a swinger myself, I can tell you, he's made a lot of people happy.
Forgive me for my dress, John, but I'm working over at the other network, and I couldn't get dressed up for this cockamamie affair.
And in 1972, NBC was about to enter a new time slot in late-night television.
The 1969 Cigarette Act banned cigarette commercials effective January 2nd, 1971.
1 minute before the ban, 11:59 p.m., January 1st, 1971, viewers of The Tonight Show saw history in the making, an end to one era with the acknowledgement of another.
You got Virginia Slims now, baby. You come a long, long way.
The network was stuck with a loss of advertising back in the 1970s. Cigarette ads went off the air, as you recall. And they were looking for ways to get some of that revenue back. So what they did was they extended the broadcast day past the Tonight Show shutdown at 1 o'clock in the morning.
After the Tonight Show on Friday nights, television went to black. There was nothing on. Right now there's movies all night. You see all kinds of reruns on, but there was nothing. I thought it would be terrific, just terrific, if I could come up with some type of show that people might want to watch after 1 o'clock when the Tonight Show ended with Johnny Carson. We taped the show, and it immediately went on NBC on a Friday night. 1 to 2:30 in the morning. They had not done that before. First time in television.
On August 19th, 1972, a late-night program was broadcast right here on NBC, and the name of that show was The Midnight Special.
My next guests have had quite a career, most successful, as singers and songwriters, and they're going to be hosting NBC's Midnight Special 1 week from Friday here on NBC. The Bee Gees.
Do you know that Jive Talkin' has sold 1 million copies?
You heard of Alaskan gold, right? Colombian gold, this is the best gold in the world.
With the success of the Midnight Special, NBC wanted another late-night show to fill out the rest of the week.
Good morning, everyone. It's now tomorrow here on NBC.
Snyder's style, his show's set, and the show itself marked an abrupt change at 1 a.m. from Carson's program.
There was no studio audience. It's just an empty studio with an hour to fill.
His name is Alfred Hitchcock. He is a motion picture director. I'd like not to talk with you this morning about movies, but rather about ideas.
By that time of the night, people don't want cheering crowds anymore. They've been screamed at since The Price is Right at 10 o'clock in the morning, for God's sake, and by the time we get to this time period, I think they're looking for something a little bit more thoughtful than another comedian.
The show was mostly intelligent talk, delivered by the kind of pro broadcaster who could hold down an entire network, unprepared and virtually single-handed.
What has kept this popularity alive? Good writing?
Say something for today, but put it 300 years from now and it wouldn't be censored. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
There are some groups that are quite open in their advocacy in the music that they present. They advocate social justice. Your music did not do that.
We made things like All You Need Is Love, you know, which is
Well, that's pretty
was
wholesome.
our version
That's
of...
a pretty wholesome message, isn't it?
Yeah, it's wholesome. But it was still a change in attitude. We're part of that psychedelic stuff.
Snyder said, "I can bring you that because that's what I do. I come from the newsroom. I don't come from the comedy stage."
If you got out of here, there are a lot of people who think you'd go start killing people again.
Again? Well, you guys are misinformed. I haven't killed anyone.
A lot of people think you're a monster, Charles. How do you
Yeah, they think you're a monster because you reflect this news media on me. I'm playing for my life. You working for money.
I assume you all know my next guest, Monday through Thursday on the NBC television network at 1 o'clock. I suppose it would be 12 o'clock in the Midwest when we go off. Mr. Tom Snyder comes on with the Tomorrow Show, which he has been doing, I think, for, 3 years or going on their 4th year. It originated out here. He went to New York. He is now back here, and I invited him to join us tonight. Would you welcome Mr. Tom Snyder?
As I told you back there, I am absolutely, my palms are sweating, my underarms are sweating. I am terrified.
Well, come on.
Well, because you remember the night that you and I did this over on the other side of the room the last night here in Burbank about 3.5 years
That's
ago.
right.
When you're used to being a host or an interviewer, it's hard to be a guest.
It is. I did the same thing with David Frost. I did one of those 90-minute things with David, and I told him, I said, this is very strange because you have reversed the roles. And I said, I think I'm going to be a terrible guest, as you probably will be, too. You would much prefer to be here. I don't mean this particular desk.
Oh, no. But, John, I've been trying to knock that down for 3.5 years now. And you came out here tonight and started it up all over again. And I'm here to lay to rest the rumor that I have any ambitions for anybody else's job. Incidentally, when you mentioned that thing in your monologue about who wants what job, I received a letter the other day from a viewer who said, we think that you are the worst person, me, that's ever been on television, that you are the most arrogant person we've ever seen, and we're never going to watch your show until NBC fires you, and we also hear that Johnny Carson is going to take your place.
Just turned it right around.
No, 2.5 hours, John. America deserves it.
They would put me right in a room. Now, you're not only going to do the Tomorrow Show. You're going to stay with that. You're going to do some specials, or do you want to get into some documentaries, or...
Well, John, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've read that I'm going to do this show, which I'm not going to do.
No, that's true.
I've read that I'm going to do the news program, which I'm not going to do. I've read that I'm going to do something on ABC, which I'm not going to do. I mean, I'm not going to do any of those things.
Yeah. You wouldn't go back on the news here. That doesn't intrigue you?
I haven't been asked, John.
In other words, if they came and said, Tom...
No, let's not make a deal here, John. I got a lot of guys making...
I mean, if somebody said, hey, Tom, we'd like you to do the news here.
John,
because I understand you didn't like to do it in New York. You wanted to get off the news.
Well, suppose that you had to go over and do the news from 6 to 7 and then run in here and do this for 3.5 years. And then you start going like that a lot because this is kind of like playing football or baseball. Right. There's a certain amount of tension out here under these lights before these cameras in front of these people. Right. And after 3.5 years, it just became time to do one thing or the other thing. And I think it's best for me to follow you. And I am very comfortable doing that program. I'm very happy doing it, and I hope to do it for a long, long time.
Good. You had...
There were a number of executives backstage here who are waiting for you and I to have a big fight, as they waited some years ago.
Is that true?
Yes, that's true. When I did the Today Show some years ago, they were waiting for Barbara Walters and I to hit each other and be carried out of the building with blood coming out of our foreheads. I mean, they don't understand that we're all pals. We're all friends.
We don't have sleepovers with each other's house, generally.
No, we don't, but I'm here to tell you that if Johnny Carson has good ratings, Tom Snyder has good ratings, because I come on after you. I depend on you.
And, look, anytime you want to drop over the house, just try to find out where I live.
No, I don't have to go. Yes, you do, Tom. Thank you, Carson.
In 1975, Carson let it be known within the network that he was unhappy with the weekend reruns of The Tonight Show. 5 nights a week were enough, he said, and he got his wish. The weekend reruns of The Tonight Show would soon be gone, paving the way for a new late-night program.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night!
When Saturday night was scheduled to debut, it turns out the not-ready-for-primetime players were not even ready for late-night television. They just could not get the show ready in time. NBC called on Tom Snyder at the last minute to do a special 90-minute Saturday show reserved for the introduction of the SNL cast and its producer, Lorne Michaels.
Just a couple of minutes here with the gang from Saturday Night, which premieres here on NBC at 11:30 on the 11th of October. Lorne Michaels is the producer. What should we look for on your program?
Anxiety. Yeah. We've got 8, and we're hoping for 2 to really work. So not all of these people will become stars.
I will be working every week as one of these stars on the show. Now, Danny here, who's a funny fellow in his own right, will be on once in a while when we work his contract out. The rest of the company here are all very good improvisational actors, and they'll probably be on too.
I wish you all well and have a lot of fun, and the audience will too, and welcome to Rockefeller Center and doing live television from New York.
Thank you.
I think it's great.
Thank you.
By 1975, David Letterman had moved to Los Angeles and was working as a stand-up comedian.
Whenever I go out with a girl, it's always the same procedure. We'll go to dinner, a show, then back to my apartment where I slip into a pair of my magnifying shorts. But that's about all I'm going to care to do there.
And as a comedy writer.
Ladies and gentlemen, our announcer, David Letterman.
Thank you.
Getting occasional acting roles.
Every creature in the universe is entitled to respect.
It's ridiculous. Nobody wants to hear that message. Sit down and shut up.
And even screen testing for the movie Airplane.
Because of my mistake, 6 men didn't come back from that raid.
7. Lieutenant Zip died this morning.
The first time I met him on television was late in the run of The Tomorrow Show. He and other young comedians were booked to come on and talk about what made comedy and what made for being funny on stage in front of people. And among the guests were David Letterman and Billy Crystal.
I started doing weather just as what they used to call Happy Talk came out of WABC in New York. And in the Midwest, it hadn't come around yet, and they didn't like it. When a tropical storm became a hurricane, I would wish her well. And they didn't like that sort of thing, because later it would go on to destroy millions and millions of dollars of property.
Finally, Dave achieved every comedian's dream of appearing on Johnny Carson's Tonight Show.
The concept of eyewitness news, make it as funny as you possibly can. So one day there were 3 murders in the city, and the news director didn't think it would be real amusing to have the anchorman report all 3 of these murders back to back, so they gave one to the sportscaster to do, see? And the guy is reading baseball scores at the time. Well, first in the National League, it was the Mets over the Braves 3-2. Reds got past the Cards 5-4, and the Dodgers murdered the Giants 9-0. Speaking of murders, looks like 45-year-old Eddie Poster won't be going out to the old ballpark anymore.
That's very funny stuff. That's new and it's fresh and everything. I saw you on Mary's variety show, and you're excellent at that. Have you done a lot of television?
No, I have, well, that was only on like 3 weeks.
Right.
And so people don't recognize me much for that. I used to work at an adult bookstore. I get recognized a lot for that.
I know you're from Indiana. Did you work in local radio and television in the Midwest?
I did. I'm from Indiana, and I guess we had folks from South Bend here, right?
Yeah.
The kind of thing I'll always remember as long as I live, growing up in Indiana, is when Dad used to tease me with the power tools. How many of you... Did you have that? What a guy.
What a guy. Sense of humor.
Yeah. I'll never... Yeah, he... chase you around the house with a belt sander.
Yeah. Get your attention real quick. Yeah. I have a feeling from your shot on this show tonight, you're going to be working a lot outside the Comedy Store.
Thank you.
Really. I hope you come back with us.
I'd love to.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
We'll be right back.
To be on his show was endlessly nerve-wracking. In those days, Johnny Carson meant the world.
Yes.
That was the Hall of Fame. You wanted that endorsement. If you didn't do well on the show, you were never coming back, and it was going to be a much harder road if you were not friendly with The Tonight Show.
The past year, you've all gotten to know David Letterman, not only from his shots on the show, but the times he's replaced me here.
Letterman is a big, big fan of Johnny's. Letterman's style is somewhat like Johnny's.
NBC president Fred Silverman was so impressed with David's performance that he pitched the idea to David of his hosting a 90-minute daily morning show.
Hello, I'm David Letterman, and I'm inviting you to watch my new show beginning Monday morning right here on NBC.
On David Letterman's new show beginning June 23rd, I'll tell you how to turn that trash compactor into a cute playroom for the kids.
Insulate your home with canned meat. Details on the David Letterman Show, June 23rd.
Something new is happening to daytime TV starting Monday on NBC.
It's the David Letterman Show, live.
I'll just take a minute here to let you folks applauding at home settle down. Okay. And you're saying, how do they get such a wonderful, spontaneous response for this guy? Well, I guess drugs would be the answer to that, huh, folks?
Familiar bits that became staples of Letterman's later shows were introduced on this show.
Friday is the day that we take a look at the viewer mail. Actual letters from actual viewers. I love Lima so much that I have changed my name to Lima Beans Wilkerson. You even sound like a vegetable. Stupid pet tricks, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we're gonna have him answer the phone.
Answer the phone.
Okay,
yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sean answering the phone. Come on, Sean. We paid for the instant replay. We may as well use it till you're bored silly, folks. Instant replay now. There he is, Sean picking up the phone.
As much as the show was liked critically, daytime audiences did not respond as well, and the show soon faced changes.
Live from New York City, today is August the 4th, and we've made some changes here on the show. For one thing, 1 hour. We're only 1 hour in length now, and we've changed the set around a little bit, and you know, anytime you make changes like that, you're going to have some problems, but I've been assured by both the network and the federal safety inspectors that these problems are nothing that can't be overcome and certainly do not endanger the safety of you, the home viewer, which, of course, is our paramount importance here at NBC.
Let's get this out of the way rapidly without any darts being blown down. There was a story here in the New York Times on, I think it was last Friday, that the future of your show was in some jeopardy. Could you clarify that? Have you had any meetings with the people here at NBC or any conversations with your people that would shed further light on this?
I called the Times principally about my subscription, in addition to other things. There were no meetings per se, phone calls, but as of today now, I was informed that the show has not been canceled. So,
fantastic.
And that's fantastic.
I am very comfortable doing late night television. I enjoy it a great deal. It's been on the network now for 7 years. There ain't too many people that have been fortunate enough to have a show that has lasted that long. And
Try 7 weeks. Yeah, you know that show is...
But you know what I'm saying? I'm saying, hey, why do I have to do something more? And I didn't mean to say that.
No,
you haven't said this.
I'm glad you said that.
And I am sorry that this program is going to disappear because it was something... It was something different and something adventurous and something really courageous in daytime television. And unfortunately...
Very nice of you. Let me ask you about...
I want you to not say... Because I mean that. You know, with this show not being in this building, a little bit of television in New York is going to die. And we'll all be the poorer for that. And unfortunately, there are some people down the hall on this floor who don't recognize that. Then that's their problem.
Thank you very much. Very, very courageous of you to say that.
And they know who they are.
Letterman wasn't the only one facing changes. In 1980, Johnny Carson signed a new contract with NBC that not only reduced his schedule to 3 shows a week, it shortened the runtime from 90 minutes to 60.
When you took over The Tonight Show, it was different. It was not an hour. It was not an hour and a half. It was what?
1 hour and 45 minutes.
Right. And how long did that go on?
We went on 11:15 to 1 o'clock, hour and 45 minutes for about 2 years. Then we got to an hour and a half, and we did that for almost 17 years.
Yeah.
The Tomorrow program was stretched from 60 to 90 minutes to fill the gap.
This is the new car that we've been building now for the past 4 weeks, and I promised you that we'd have moved the headlights around a little bit and changed the chrome as the Tomorrow Show expands to 90 minutes and adds some new television stations on the NBC television network.
How's the new show, the new Tomorrow Show?
It's long. 90 minutes is a long time. Yes. To sit in a television studio with people who are sitting in seats such as these people are here.
NBC also requested more changes that Tom Snyder was not happy about.
Yes, sir. Your name?
Yes, Eddie Jacobs from Long Beach. I'd like to know if you miss your old format of your show when you didn't have an audience, and I thought it was much more intimate.
That's an interesting question. Doing it for 7 years with nobody in the studio and now doing this, I will tell you, it's uncomfortable here. It's not pleasant sometimes. I think to put a studio audience on a show at 1:30 in the morning is criminal. Put me in a room where there's a studio audience, and I start thinking they're all here, and they want to win a car, and I don't have one for them. I get scared.
NBC also assigned Tom a co-host.
Months ago, when we were talking about expanding this program to 90 minutes, my people came into the office and we were talking about adding somebody on the program who would be able to report on the many facets of the entertainment industry around the country and all over the world. And we kept coming back to the phrase, why don't we get somebody like Rona Barrett?
The show was rebranded as Tomorrow Coast to Coast, with Tom conducting interviews from the studio in New York, while Rona reported from Hollywood.
And now here is Rona to report on what's happening in Hollywood tonight.
Thank you, Tom. Tonight here in Hollywood, we'll take a look at some big and not so big surprises in this year's Golden Globe Awards nominations.
Snyder resented Barrett and feuded viciously with her, refusing to acknowledge her as anything more than a contributor.
Now let me ask you about Rona Barrett. How do you get along with Rona Barrett?
I get along with her real well.
She's coming on to be your West Coast anchor, right? Yeah.
Correspondent. And I'm looking forward to her being there. I think she'll help us there. I think for me to sit there and do interviews for 90 minutes is basically boring.
On the Tomorrow Show, coast to coast, from day one, it was almost a disaster.
Barrett said no matter who I got as a guest, no matter how important, they never put me first up.
It's a singularly unimportant event in the history of television, Miss Barrett and myself on the Tomorrow Show. Anyway, I want to get back here to the rock and roll people.
Pre-MTV, pre-cable television. These guys had no mainstream access. You gave it to them.
You're talking about the great ones. I'm talking about the night that what's-her-face, Wendy O. Williams and the Plasmatics came in and blew up a car, for sake, in the middle of NBC in New York. That was the night I knew, hey, this sucker's over. When we start blowing up cars, we're in trouble.
The Tomorrow program quietly came to a close. Johnny Carson's 1980 contract gave him approval over the show that follows his, and NBC announced that a new show starring David Letterman would take over the time slot. Snyder was offered the opportunity to continue as host of Tomorrow from 1:30 to 2:30 a.m., following the Letterman show, but he told NBC that 1:30 in the morning is just too late for the kind of broadcast he's interested in doing.
I'm going to miss you personally, and I think everybody is. You've become an institution on this network. I think it's a dumb network for doing this. I tell you, I think it's a mistake on two fronts. One is, you are an institution. People do want to see you. And the idea of putting you back to 2:30 in the morning is the most obnoxious thought. The second thing is...
Well, but you see, eventually I would catch up with the Today Show.
You'd be on the Today Show, yeah.
And the second thing is for David, who I also like, David Letterman. It was great to give him a 9 o'clock. That's kind of show you one 9 a.m. show for David Letterman. Made a lot of sense. Now they're putting him in a slot that's wrong for him. It's just completely... It's like NBC. Look out, PBS, we're coming after you. You know, what are they looking for, ratings?
I look back after 8.5 years on all the great moments that have happened here and all the things we have seen that have changed our lives over the last 8.5 years. As I say, this has been a very fragile and delicate relationship, and it ends at a time when television is changing. I look back to the good old days when there were quiet hours spent here with David Letterman, who made his first appearance on network television on this show, and will begin in this time period on February 1st of next year. We came on the air very quietly back in October of 1973, and I want us to go off the very same way. I thank you for the good times and for the ride, and I'll be right around the corner. George, a slow fade to black. Thank you all for watching, and good night, everybody.
Dave is back in New York. You're going to host a late night television program that premieres Monday night.
I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you.
After an intro by future regular Larry Bud Melman, Late Night began exactly as Dave's morning show had ended.
And now, a man who has been replaced by 2 game shows, David Letterman!
With an introduction by the Rainbow Grill Dancing Girls.
And now, a man who shouldn't be up this late, David Letterman!
Welcome to our show. It's late night, and I guess you know spring is just around the corner in New York City when the Peacock girls start to molt. It's
Letterman's style was low-key and laid back.
We've now killed 2.5 minutes. That is right? All right!
More of an acquired taste than most comedians.
We're going to start our own top 10 list, and tonight, I think we got a pretty good one. Top 10 words that almost rhyme with peas.
The program's overall mix often strains for the unpredictable.
I thought that I would never want to do this show with you.
Now, why? Because you thought I was,
An ass.
It's Letterman announcing that he simultaneously loves television and finds it ridiculous.
There's very little I can do from this position.
Johnny Carson had an affinity for Letterman that he hadn't had for Tom Snyder.
David has a home out in Malibu. I won't mention exactly where it is because we were only about 8 blocks apart. And I was out walking one day, and I saw this beat-up red pickup truck. I don't know how old it is, 15 or 20 years old.
73 Chevy, and it's not what I would call beat up.
Well, being a member of the Malibu Community Property Owners Association, I went by your house this morning on the way to work.
No.
And I will take full responsibility for this. Call me vigilante, if you wish. I dispatched some people to your home, because I mentioned this to you before.
Oh, good.
About
This
the
is
truck.
what I need, strangers roaming around in my front yard.
So, this happened late this afternoon while you were at the studio.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, good, good. Steal it, sure. What the hell is this? They're stealing a truck.
David, this is your truck.
Look at this fine. Now look at Wait a minute, he scratched the damn truck.
To have Johnny Carson as a friend, oh my God, that's a tremendous blessing. I've actually been to his house a few times. He's been very gracious to me, very nice. We even played tennis one day at his home.
You and each of you do solemnly swear the testimony you are about to give in these proceedings shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
More or less, sir. Yes. Yes, sir, I did remove the truck from the premises. An illegally parked truck on county property.
Look, I object, Your Honor. I object.
Well, don't object. It's not going to help you any.
I was just a kid who had, kind of followed the beacon of his light coming out of Burbank.
Is this Mrs. Dorothy Letterman?
That's right, Dorothy.
Yes, it is. Has David ever told you that he hopes that I get run over by a Sparkletts water delivery truck so he can get the 11:30 time period on NBC? Has he ever told you that?
Yes, he talks about it frequently.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Letterman. Bye-bye.
Talks about it frequently.
Letterman also had a soft spot for Tom Snyder, the host he had replaced on NBC's schedule. Letterman said, "We took Snyder's time slot, but not his place."
Excuse me.
Yes, Paul.
1 second.
Yeah.
Is it me, or did I see something crazy in the prancing fluids?
In the
I'm not
prancing
sure what
fluids?
right in the middle of the actual fluids themselves.
You thought you saw something?
Something nutty. Do you think you could turn them on
I'll
again?
turn them on again. I don't know. I was busy with my paperwork here. All right, I'll switch it on. Let's see. Where exactly did you see it, Paul?
Well, it was just kind of right in the middle of the thing.
Oh my God, he's right.
I can't be sure of this, but I thought I saw the ghostly image of Tom Snyder.
Yeah, I think Paul thought he imagined that he saw something in the fountains, and it was nothing, Paul. It was, I don't know, an apparition or I don't know, something that. What the hell was that? Oh my God, what is
something
that?
From the hallway.
Something in the hallway.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What the hell was that? Jeez.
Well, I think it was lights from an airplane reflecting off a cloud formation.
Yeah, well, you know, we're near several major metropolitan airports.
After Tomorrow ended, Tom Snyder went back to local news in New York.
Next on Channel 7's Eyewitness News.
Then hosted a local daytime talk show in L.A.
The set has got to be taken out of here, but don't try this at home, okay?
Before returning to the late night talk format with a program on ABC Radio.
There's something going on AM radio. I don't know what it is, but it's doing real good.
We'll be right back after these messages. By the way, I like what you've done to the room. It looks really, really good.
Thank you very much.
Really, you really fixed it up nicely. I have great reverence for this building and for this audience and for this time period, because in 15 years, only 2 of us have done this.
All right, but you were the one, Tom, who made it viable. If it weren't for you...
Stop it now.
Well, no, that's true. I mean, you came on and proved that there was an audience out there eager for network television.
A small audience in the beginning, but eager to be sure.
That's right. And now you're on, I guess it is ABC Radio. You're talking now to people all across the country every night.
The great thing about radio, David, and you know this, is that the makeup is always perfect.
Yeah.
The lighting is always perfect. You're always 22, Dave. Jerry in Pipton, Indiana. Hello.
Hi, Tom. This is Jerry.
Hi, Jerry.
Long-time listener, first-time caller, Tom. Love the show.
Thanks, Jerry. Now, are you on a car phone or a...
Yeah, listen, Tom, thank God. I just wanted to say thank God for Dr. Heimlich.
Oh, he saved your life, huh?
4 times. Once was beef, once was bacon, once was veal, and once it was gum.
Why don't you try soup?
Excellent thought, Tom. Yeah, I live in Tipton. I'm hoping to move to Vancouver.
I hope you live long enough. Jeez.
Tom, this is your friend Dave. I have a show at NBC. You were on the other night, and I just wanted to call to thank you and to congratulate you on your radio show. I got to go. I'm here in a stray bullet zone on the Deegan. I got to hit the road. Good night.
After ABC disbanded its nightly talk network, Snyder decided to take up Andy Friendly on his offer to come work at CNBC.
Good evening, everybody. T.S. with you here on the Monday night television program, and we begin a television relationship that began 20 years ago with the old Tomorrow program on NBC. And I hope that this program is a continuation of the dialogue that you and I began during those 5 years on radio. Folks, here's a little show, and I hope you like it.
And just in case you were wondering...
How do you and Johnny feel about the 5-minute later starting time?
Oh, I'm in favor of it.
NBC decided to slide The Tonight Show back from 11:30 to 11:35 each weeknight. The move also meant late night and later would be pushed back. Stations had pressured the network to delay Carson until midnight so they could air reruns like Cheers and sell the commercial time. NBC decided to give the stations some financial concession for staying with the show. With the extra 5 minutes, the stations would extend their late local newscasts and add 3 new commercials.
In the paper this morning, it said it'll give the local stations a chance to cover more news, right? And probably run 3 more commercials for big bucks.
That's right, yeah. Yep. And Tom, as I mentioned last night on this program, I'm going to use that 5 minutes to make sure my makeup is perfect.
In 1992, after 30 years of hosting The Tonight Show, Johnny Carson decided to retire.
I bid you a very heartfelt good night.
He had made the announcement a year earlier at the NBC affiliates meeting.
I just want to say this is the last year that I'm doing The Tonight Show. My last show is going to be 1 year from now.
I happen to be in town over doing some stuff for the NBC affiliate.
That's right.
You quit. Johnny, you quit your job. That's the business you came to.
Jesus.
Now, when you go there and you talk to the affiliates, what is the mood? How do people feel about it? Because television is in a great era of turmoil now.
Well, it's like a feeding frenzy. All the affiliates come there, you know, then they want more time off the network. And I just came from talking with Warren Littlefield, so I'm still trying to come out of this. It's coming to an end, you know, next year. I've always wanted to be a shepherd.
Is that right?
That's right.
Jeez, that's odd.
I don't know.
Shepherd.
Well, it's just one of those things that appeals to me.
With Carson leaving The Tonight Show, his coveted spot in the late-night schedule was up for grabs.
The high stakes, the brass knuckles, the late night TV wars.
Leno won.
The Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
Let's see how you all feel in 30 years.
With Leno taking over The Tonight Show on NBC, Letterman was lured away by rival CBS to host The Late Show in the same time slot.
This is CBS.
It's The Late Show with David Letterman.
If you think about it, all I really did was take the summer off.
With Letterman's departure, Conan O'Brien took over as host of Late Night on NBC.
You know, Dave Letterman is a legend here at NBC, and if there's anything that's fun to do, it's replacing legends at NBC. I know it. Oh, yeah.
It's Late Night with Conan O'Brien.
Well, I've been in show business now 45 seconds, and this is the nicest reception I ever had. Thank you very much.
With O'Brien following Leno on NBC, the question of who would follow Letterman on CBS became a running gag.
Tom, how are you?
I'm fine, Joe.
Great. I'm enjoying your show. I'm going to have to be really careful about setting my VCR when you move to CBS.
A gag which was carried over onto the fictional Larry Sanders Show.
Larry, Arthur, the 12:30 slot is wide open. Now, our only competition so far is Conan O'Brien.
Does anyone know who they're putting on after Letterman?
No, they're keeping that under real tight wraps.
The important thing is who's going on after Mr. Larry Sanders.
I'm having trouble. A lot of trouble finding one of those guys to take the 12:30 spot after me.
Me too. It's killing me.
Boy, it's fucked. There's only a handful of guys that can do it. Who are you thinking about?
I can't tell you.
Come on. It's between us.
Tom Snyder. But don't tell me.
Oh, come on.
Tom Snyder.
Come on.
Tomorrow, Tom Snyder.
No.
Yeah. Tom Snyder.
The original Tom Snyder? This guy you?
Yeah. His hair is back.
Wow.
He's ready to go. Tom Snyder.
I'm shocked.
No, it's going to be great.
God.
No, we're very happy with it.
Dick Cavett tied up.
I couldn't answer to that.
Well, good luck. There's been a lot of conjecture, a lot of misinformation in the papers about who we are putting on in the 12:30 slot after us, the Larry Sanders Show. And I'd like to put an end to all the speculation right now by announcing and introducing the new host of the 12:30 slot to you now. He's an old friend and a very talented man, Mr. Tom Snyder. Tom Snyder.
When Letterman said that he was thinking of Tom Snyder, you sure he wasn't joking?
Yeah, he wasn't joking. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, I asked Tom about it, and he said that he never heard about the Letterman thing.
Really?
Really?
A gag which became reality.
We've been here in the Ed Sullivan Theater for almost 1 year. It'll be a couple of weeks we will have been here, started our brand new show at CBS 1 year ago. And as we started our television program in February of, was it 80? February of 81 or something? Called Late Night, which replaced Tom's show there at NBC. So now, if you think in these terms, for me in a small measure, we have come full circle here, and we are able to afford Tom a position which I think he has earned and certainly deserved, which is to be, once again, a fixture on network television.
You know, I'm not doing this for the money, and I'm not doing it to go back on the network. I'm doing it for two reasons. The first reason is late night broadcasting at CBS. I've loved late night since I did it back in the 70s at NBC. And the second reason is the profound friendship and respect that I have for Mr. David Letterman, who's been kind to me and a stand-up friend for going on 15 years now. Bob Morton was still at NBC, were you not? When you called me one day and said, you know, if David goes to CBS at some point, he would want to do another program, and would you, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, yeah. I said, you know, what might be interesting is to do it live and simulcast it on CBS radio. It just seemed to me to be a neat idea to do a show late at night that people could watch if they were at home or if they were on the beach in Hawaii with a transistor radio, they could listen to it, or if they were driving on the freeways in San Francisco, they could listen to it. Like, you know, we could simulcast this on radio and television, which has not been done before by a network late at night, and then throw in the 800 number. You know, it might just really generate some excitement on broadcast.
Was it an accident that the Larry Sanders Show came up with this plot for you picking Tom, or was that, did you add to that? Did you suggest that to them?
I think that it was their idea, and it is sort of odd that whenever we filmed that, which I guess now is the better part of a year ago, that it has come to pass. So it's sort of a nice little thing to have on record.
In our case, Two's Company and Late Night, and I think these are two for our future for a long time, and I couldn't be more delighted.
Good evening, folks, and welcome back, everybody. I'm Tom, and the simulcast comes to you live tonight from the Columbia Broadcasting System in Los Angeles. I had a letter today from a fellow who wants to be the coordinator for the studio audience of the Late Late Show. Now, we don't have a studio audience. Fire up the color teenies, watch the pictures as they fly through the air, and thanks for watching, everybody.
Working in tandem for the first time, Dave and Tom set out to build their own late-night block for CBS.
The last time that you were here, you said to me that once you learn the 2 or 3 great lessons of broadcasting, you never forget them.
That's right. There are not many things
and since
to
that
learn,
time, I've been wondering what the 2 or 3 great lessons of broadcasting might be.
Regardless of what other things are going on in the studio, when the red light comes on, just start talking. That's number 1. Don't try to get in your car while you're still wearing your microphone. That's number 2.
Number 2, yeah.
And then number 3, don't do your own makeup. And number 4, don't cut your own hair.
Yeah, the 3.
Yeah, that's it right there. Columbia School of Broadcasting will teach you half of that.
Snyder said, Dave and I are really the last of the old-time broadcasters. We are really the last link to Jack Paar, Steve Allen, and Johnny Carson.
You know, after Johnny retired, which was in '92, he was nice enough to appear on this program in little cameos and little skits and stuff that we would do from time to time, and it was always a great kick. And we put together a few of those moments. Take a look.
Hello, Johnny.
Hello.
How are you?
Oh, Dave.
The reason I'm calling here,
yeah, Dave.
What we would like to do. The audience was interested in this. They want to see Stump the Band. It wasn't my idea.
This is a strange coincidence.
Yeah?
You're the second person in the last 6 weeks that asked me to use that.
Is that right?
Yeah, Chevy Chase called.
He does the jokes, all I can do
because
is
he's a good friend of mine, and I said he couldn't use it. Probably would have saved his ass.
Complete silence as I attempt to divine the answer to the question without ever having seen the question before.
Johnny, can I have the top 10 list?
Thank you, Johnny. Good night. Nice to see you.
Johnny's May 13th, 1994 appearance on Dave's show was also his last appearance on television. Snyder said about the Late Late Show, "This is no great big comeback. This is a continuation of what I've done for 40 years. The new show is not as controversial as Tomorrow." Snyder said, "I don't purport to be a newsman. I used to do that for a living, but I have gone on to talk shows."
We are with Laura Dern, who's...
I like Nora better, actually.
I'm glad you do.
Tom Snyder, tiring of the 5-night-a-week grind, stepped down as host of The Late Late Show before his contract expired in 1999, saying, "There's a lot of stuff I want to do in my life which is not about television. Let's face it, none of us are getting any younger."
I'm nervous tonight. You know, this is the last one. This is the farewell, and there's a saying in my business that you're only as good as your last show, so I am going to try and be especially good tonight. And finally, may I thank you who have watched me and listened to me on radio and television for over 25 years in this country. You're great people to work for in this time period because you get it and because you understand it and because your curiosity and your interest in things surpass those of people who watch in other day parts. I am convinced of that. You know, you and I didn't get the greatest time period in the world. We got stuck with 1 o'clock in the morning. We don't get as big a crowd as they generate at 9 o'clock at night or at 11:30. In my particular case, we haven't won this time period against the competition in the 4 years plus I've been here. But I think we've had a wonderful time together, having fun and learning things about ourselves and about the world.
Tom Snyder retired, but the Late Late Show went on.
Welcome to your Late Late Show. My name is Craig Kilborn.
Come with me and you'll be in a world of pure imagination. It all starts pretty soon. Be there for the celebration.
Daddy, I want it now. I want it now. Now! Daddy.
Snyder did come out of retirement once as a favor to Letterman.
I haven't been back to CBS since I left the Late Late Show back in March of 1999. And I am especially pleased to be asked to come back in here and help out with the work while my friend David Letterman recovers from quintuple bypass surgery. Very, very surprising news when we learned that Dave had to go through that procedure, but he's coming back soon. As a matter of fact, he'll be on the air live on tape here on CBS on Monday night, the 21st. I'm Tom Snyder for Dave. Thank you all for watching. Craig Kilborn is next, and from the Late Show in Los Angeles, good night, everybody.
Well, here was a sad story. I hated to hear about this. Paris Hilton, you know Paris Hilton? Paris Hilton has a dog named Tinkerbell, and Tinkerbell was missing for a while. Don't worry, they found Tinkerbell. They found the dog. Tinkerbell was with the Taco Bell Chihuahua making a sex video. So it has a happy ending. I saw this in the paper over the weekend. The Red Cross went into Iraq to interview, what's his name, Saddam Hussein, you know? Yeah. And he's apparently out of it. He kept asking, when is Sean Penn coming back? That's a bad sign. Every one of those jokes I did a few minutes ago were written for us over the last couple of months by Johnny Carson.
The one thing he missed about the show was doing the monologue. And he would pick up the papers in the morning and write jokes from the paper for his own amusement. But he had no outlet for them. So after a couple of times, I said, you know, I would love these jokes. Dave, you should send them to him.
Well, it was a tremendous thrill and a boost for us because we're just sitting here day in and day out and day in and day out. You get a call from Johnny Carson, and he's got jokes for you. I mean, it's like it's like Christmas morning, for God's sakes.
Good morning and goodbye to a TV legend. Johnny Carson, the king of late night during a 30-year reign on The Tonight Show, has died at the age of 79.
When this all happened, I had the strange feeling that I had been through this before, and I'll tell you why. And I think many people felt this way. I was nearly this sad when the guy retired, when you find out that he's actually passed away, because he's, you know, that part of our lives. And Johnny Carson, and you probably all know this, I just want to underline a couple of things here. He was like a public utility, you know? At the end of the day, that's who you wanted to be there, you know? It didn't make any difference what kind of a day you had, if you had a great day or a bad day, or, you know, the Watergate and Vietnam and the Gulf War, and it didn't make any difference who was president, didn't make any difference. So what the economy was, or the unemployment, or what was going on. At the end of the day, the guy you wanted there was Johnny Carson. What a tremendous luxury, if you think about it, to be tucked in at night by Johnny Carson.
Well, that's so true.
I've been coming out here for 16 years every night to do a monologue to millions of people who are watching mainly from their beds. So I figured on my anniversary show I should be allowed just once to do the monologue from bed to you people. And so you people watching at home, so you know what I'm going through. If you were in bed now, I would appreciate it if you would get out of bed, put on a suit and tie. and take a few bows, okay? I'll wait for you.
And the thing that I used to love most about Johnny Carson, and I guess I have a different perspective, because if you think about it, there's really only a handful of people in the world who kind of do this. And so the thing that I used to love about Johnny, because it's really difficult, and the thing that you really take the most pride in is making people laugh. You know, you come out and there's an audience full of folks and you want to make them laugh. The best part about Johnny is when a joke would not go well. And he would look at the audience and give them that look like he had just bought them drinks and nobody said thank you. And then he would go on, and maybe 2 or 3 more jokes wouldn't work. And then Doc and the band would start playing, was it Tea for Two or something like that?
Yeah.
That's right, that's right. And then Johnny would start dancing. And it was the funniest thing of the night and the funniest thing of the week. I moved to Los Angeles from Indianapolis in 1975, and the reason I moved is because of Johnny Carson and The Tonight Show. And I'm not the only one. I would guess that maybe 3 generations of comedians moved to be where Johnny was, because if you thought you were funny and you wanted to find out if you could hit major league pitching, you had to be on The Tonight Show. And that's exactly what I did. And all of my peers moved out there for the same reason. And I was lucky enough to be on The Tonight Show in 1978, and from that I got a show that Paul and I used to do over at NBC, and from that we got this show. And truthfully, no stretch of the imagination, I owe everything in my professional career, whatever success we've attained, to Johnny Carson.
We mentioned this a moment earlier. We are mourning a giant of this business as well tonight. Tom Snyder was an overpowering, iconic presence on American television for decades.
You know, our good friend, this was very sad to hear, our good friend Tom Snyder passed away yesterday, 71 years old.
Too young.
Way, way too young. And you all remember Tom. He, I guess, came to national attention first on the Tomorrow Show, which followed Johnny Carson's Tonight Show on NBC. What a tremendous program this was, because in those days, you didn't have 1,000 television channels. You had maybe 4, maybe 5 if you were lucky. Yeah. And this TV would not be on all night. It would sign off. And then here suddenly, in the middle of the night, was Tom Snyder's program, and gosh, was that entertaining. Do you remember how great that show was?
Of course, yeah.
And here's what the nice thing about Tom was. It didn't make any difference who was on the program. It was all about Tom, because he could beat, it really was. You were fascinated by Tom, and when he was great, he was compelling, and even when he was being a goofball, he was compelling.
Tell me about your outfits.
I stole this from Flash Gordon, and, you know, I have my cape here.
But you're kind of like a spaceman, huh?
No, actually, I'm a plumber. On the side. Look.
Well, listen, I got a little piece of pipe backstage I'd like to have you work on.
Tell me about
it. You old sweet talker, you. But I'll tell you, I read on the sheet that they gave me where they said that it's hard to get you out of your shell.
It's hard for me to talk. I'm very introverted.
Try to cheer down.
That was the Tomorrow Show, and then he did a show right after us called The Late Late Show from 1995 to 1998. And this guy really was what television was all about. Whatever was going on, Tom was the entertainment. So I'm very sorry that our old friend passed away on Sunday. Tom Snyder, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at a picture of him right there. There's Tom.
With his mentor and his colleague gone, Dave was left along with his one-time friend, colleague, and competitor Jay Leno as the elder statesman of late night. Their protégés and successors would continue the march of the Late Night Saga.
I've had great fortune to work all my adult life in broadcasting, which is what I decided I wanted to do one day in high school, and I think, you know, who among us can say that they've been able to do exactly what they wanted to do all their life.
Wish.
Yeah.